Yeah, it's our friend. Oh, hey, we're live.
Hey.
There we are. We're live. Yeah, no, it's our friend Lisa in Florida, and
Yeah.
she mentioned her question. I said that's perfect because I have the best guest host in the world joining me for answering that question. And for those joining us on the live stream, we haven't started recording yet, obviously, but Dave Ginsburg is with us.
Hey.
Hey,
How's it going,
look,
everybody?
and check out
Oh,
your
look, I even
lower
have
third
a
there.
lower third. Look at that. Oh, I got a little iPhone mix.
There you go. See, I gave you a little iPhone there. So yeah, so we'll have that on, your full screen. There's your little iPhone there, and then
Nice.
and then we've got it together there. See, So we're all set for you.
You are.
And I did. Oh, anyone who's tuned in, it looks like we might have some folks tuned in here, which is awesome.
You in the chat?
We at least got one thumbs up. Or was that you?
Nope. I'm just going in now, actually.
All right, we got one thumbs up, so that's awesome. I think the thumbs up though was for you, Dave. I think the thumbs up was for you.
It shows one watching right now, so I don't know how many people.
Awesome. Maybe it's Lisa.
Just me.
All right. Okay, so for those watching live, you may be used to the fact that Eric and I jaw on forever before we actually start recording. Oh, hey, you want me to tweak? You want me to tweak your camera a bit? I can do that.
I was tweaking position. That you can't do.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. No, you look pretty good there. Let's see. Let's get you over here. Yeah, you're pretty good there. I don't think we need to tweak anything.
Too much headroom. And now it's caught cockeyed. See? This is Lexicam.
I can't do anything about cockeyedness, but I can.
No, you can't.
I can zoom and I can do that kind of stuff. Yeah, you're good position there. Although my lower third is blocking your lower third.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Well, no, not really. No, we can see it. We can see it's blocking your logo. That's yeah, my frame is blocking your logo, but there we can see it. No, my logo's my logo is blocking your logo. All right, here, I'll take care of that. Give me a second.
Don't worry about my logo. It's just there.
I'll take care of that, my friend. Here we go. Let me unlock that, and then we'll grab my little corner bug. Oh no, that's not good. Don't want to do that.
Just leave it. It's all good.
I'll lock your camera and your name in the background. There now. Oh.
Toggle around. There you go.
Here, I'll put it right there.
Yeah.
There. That's perfect. That's perfect.
That's right there. There.
No. Here, I know it. Yeah. Now, you know why?
That's
because
fine.
it's a 1080 thingamabobber,
Okay.
and it won't let me move over more.
They can see through it.
Yeah, they can see through it.
It's all good.
There. How about that? Now they can see through it. Bam. There we go. All right. I suppose I could just turn it off.
Yippee. All good.
I have to untweak my tweaks. Okay, there we go. Boom. Okay. Oh, and I didn't finish my thought, and I almost didn't finish that thought. So every episode, I forget to start recording. Every time I forget to press record on the ding dang.
That's a problem.
Pod track over here. So I created a big, giant yellow sticky note that says "Start recording" on it. Start recording.
There you go.
And what did I do? I stuck it on my monitor so I would see it. And when you joined in, what did I do? I forgot to press record.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. It's recording now.
Good.
Doot, doot. All right. And yeah, so why don't we get started? How does that sound?
Works for me.
Oh, that was the thought I didn't finish. I said I was going to be sensitive of your time.
I'm good.
Eric's time,
I'm free.
I just waste his time all over the place. But I'm sensitive of your time, so
Don't be on. I'm open all day.
I want to get this ship moving. Let's see here. All right, so I've got my stuff in front of me. This is going to be fun. I think this is going to be a good episode. The worst part of it will be this title I came up with. So anybody that folks listening live, when you hear me say the title of the show, if you think of a better title and Dave and I like it, we're going to re-record the intro with your title. How about that?
There you go.
It has to be a consensus, though. Dave and I both have to vote on it, so, always conditions. Always put conditions on stuff. All right. Here we go. So we are at 12 minutes and 40 seconds in. And we are going to get started in 3, 2, 1. It's For Mac Guys Only, episode number 417 for September 24th, 2023. In touch with iOS 17. Hey everyone, welcome back to For Mac Guys Only, the show for the Mac community, where we share our thoughts and opinions on current Mac news and events. And I have been waiting for the perfect opportunity to bring our special guest on the show. And what better time than now, 1 week after the release of iOS 17, it's the host of In Touch with iOS, Dave Ginsburg. Hey Dave, how you doing?
Hey. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Mike. This is going to be a lot of fun. Lots to talk about. My head's still spinning, trying to catch up on all the things that Apple announced and all the changes. So we're gonna have a good time here.
I bet it is spinning, and we're just 1 week into iOS 17.
Yeah.
And so, I thought let's bring Dave on to share some of his experiences with us, questions he's been getting from his audience. And maybe, if I can, maybe we can get him to share some of his frustrations with iOS 17 too. And then as a bonus, you were just showing me this before we started recording. You've got your new iPhone 15 Pro Max, right?
There you go, Pro Max.
Yeah, there you go. So maybe we can talk about that too. Oh, and I have a couple listener questions to cover as well. One of which is perfect for this week's topic. Now, remember, if you are joining us live, I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat room too. So if you have any questions or comments as we move along, be sure to preface it with a Q so that we can spot it more easily, and we'll try to address it. Okay, so what do you think, Dave? Ready to get in touch with iOS 17?
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, I thought maybe we could start with what's new, or maybe even better, maybe we could focus on some of your favorite new features.
Yeah, sure. Some things I've already talked about on other shows, but I'm glad to go over some of the things that kind of stood out to me, because we could probably spend 2 hours talking about all the new features and such.
Oh, easily.
A couple things that really are of note. The phone. The phone made some major changes to its interface, and a couple things that stand out. The first thing is you're able to customize what people see when you call. I'll talk about that just a minute, as well as sending when someone goes to your voicemail, you actually be able to see a live transcript, and I'll talk about that.
Okay.
But first off, what's the first thing that absolutely everybody freaked out about is when you're using the phone. And a lot of changes happened with the phone this time around, because we all know when we use the phone, when you're on a call, the only button you really saw was the end button, the red big end button, and that was the one place you had to go to end the call, right? All the other things that you had to do, including audio, FaceTime, muting, adding another call, and a keypad, you had to toggle between screens. They didn't make that very easy. Well, now what they've done is they've put they put all these buttons down with and joining, because the end button was lonely, that to have all 6 of these buttons all in one place. So now when you go down there, you don't have to fish to go for the keypad. I mean, a lot of times maybe you're making a phone call to your bank or somebody that needs to use a keypad to enter in keyed information. It's right there for you. Being able to go right to a FaceTime call, you now can do that right from that same screen when you made the phone call. Audio's there, so muting on and off is very easy to do with the button right there. And then being able to add and mute calls is there too. So they did a really great job when it comes to that. I think because and one of the funny thing was the frustration during the beta cycle. One of the beta versions, they had moved the end button over to the left.
Right. I heard
Everybody
about
was everybody was in an uproar. No, we can't do that because it's we've had the iPhone basically with the end button in the middle of that screen forever. If I don't think not ever. I mean, I think it's always been there. So I guess they did one little experiment and then they heard it. Just trust me. So the next beta, it got moved back over
So
where it
were people
belongs.
accidentally hanging up on their calls, or was it just because it was a different spot?
It was in a different spot because, like it says, our memory to know where to go when you're making a phone call is, we're all used to going right. Hey, the button's right there on the bottom there. So yeah, it's there now. But I'm pleased with that. I think having all those in one place now is going to be so much easier. Not having to fish through the different screens when you had to get to it, and all the things I described. So I think that in itself is something that was of note as well.
Well, I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't noticed that. So let me try to make sure I understand what you're saying. So the only thing I remember not being visible when on a call are the number buttons. So if you had to, like you said, if you had to punch in a credit card number or something and boop, 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 you had to press a button to display those numbers. Are you saying that now the numbers and the other buttons are all on one screen?
All on one screen, and
Wow.
and the keypad buttons right there. So now you don't have to remember. Like I said, in iOS 16 and earlier, you had to fish over to get to that next. Switch over to the screen that it was there with the keypad. Now the keypad button is right there. Just tap it, brings you right to the keypad. Do your business, and then you can go right back.
Oh, so you still have to reveal the numbers.
Right,
It's
but
just that
at least now it's in one place as opposed to having to go to 2 places to get to it.
Gotcha.
All these functions are now have the ability to you can move just with one step because the button's right there, right in front of you.
Okay. That sounds like a nice change.
Yeah. Then the other thing I mentioned is the contact poster, and what they did was they added a way to now when someone calls you, you can add what's called a contact poster. What you do is you go into your contacts and then you tap at the top where it says my card or my contact. Excuse me, and that gives you the ability to actually go in and customize and add a photo of yourself or of anything you'd like, or maybe an emoji or all that stuff. And it really gives you some great ways to be able to personalize your contact poster. That's what they're calling it now. You don't have to do it, of course, but it's kind of fun. So when someone calls, you'll see my face come up, if assuming that they're in your contacts, or I actually think it'll actually show if you call anybody, as long as they're using iOS 17, that you'll be able to see what their face looks like.
If I remember, you can set it to only display to your contacts or to
your
everyone.
contacts. Right, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes. That's right.
And I'll admit, Dave, when the new wallpaper feature came out it was last year, right, with iOS 16, or was it 15? The new way of customizing your wallpaper and adding widgets and all that kind of stuff. I didn't jump on that right away. But when I saw this contact poster, I'm like, hey, I'm going to play with that. And it was a lot of fun. The only thing that I found confusing is that while I was setting up the contact poster, it showed just my first name. And then once I saved it, it switched to showing my full name.
Right.
And I'd kind of like it to just show my first name. And I couldn't really find a way to change it to turn off the last name. I don't know if that's possible. But it was a little confusing that it only showed one while setting it up and both when it was done.
Yeah, yeah, it was. But I think what they wanted to do is they didn't want to take up all the real estate. They want to lets you be able to customize the font because you can get more granular when it comes to the font view and changes. And when you tap when it says contact photo and poster, and then like you said, it's set to contacts only, and then you edit it, and then it'll actually show what it looks like. Yeah, you're right. I'm showing this on camera here. You won't be able to hear about this, but that's what it looks like, where it actually shows my face, and then there's the answer call or the end call when the call is coming in. That's what someone's going to see if you're in my contacts list, and you can go in and edit that and make a change, and edit the way it views, the way the photo looks. So yeah, they've gotten even some more nice ways of customizing the way your contact comes up when you're calling somebody that's in your contacts.
I'm probably going to get the terminology wrong, and maybe it always was separate, but it seems to me like the little round contact pick, they've separated that from your iCloud pick now. And I thought they were always kind of one and the same in the past, but now it seems that like they've pulled those two apart.
Well, no, they didn't because
mine are now two different picks.
Okay, because when I did it, yeah, I had a different photo. I had a photo. I was wearing my tie as my corporate photo, and then I changed it to another photo that wasn't. And all of a sudden, because I have multiple Macs and my iPads, and I went back to them, and it changed my you get on the Mac, you have the icon of your account. It switched it.
Yeah, it did that for me too.
Contact.
It switched the contact pick
to what you changed it to on the iPhone.
It didn't switch my iCloud pick. Which is interesting. Yeah, which is weird. Which is fine. I'm trying to find that original iCloud pic. I can't find the Mac I took the picture on. I don't know where that original picture is, and I wanted to find it before I deleted it. So it's just as well. But yeah, now my iCloud and my contact are two different pictures entirely.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think you can go back and try to go. If there's ways, I think you can go back into there and maybe change it again, and it might sync. I haven't seen that before.
I seem to recall when you change your iCloud pic, it says, "Oh, do you want to update your contact pic as well?" So maybe it's just the reverse process than what we're doing with the contact poster. Yep. But yeah, the contact poster is pretty cool. And anybody who knows me and is in my contacts, when I call you, you're going to know exactly where I took that picture.
Yeah, unless you have a Disney character on there.
That's right. That's right. So what else? What else are you liking with iOS 17?
And this is a game changer. I mean, it was long overdue. I must say, I think Android's had this for a while, but I'm glad they finally have it. It's what's called live voicemail. So what happens is when someone calls you and you decide, I'm not going to answer right now, and it goes to your voicemail, what you can do in real time, you actually can see a live transcript of what they're saying while they're leaving the voicemail. Think about the old days when we used to have answering machines with the small micro cassette tapes that were in maybe some of the big ones too,
or full size cassettes.
Full size cassettes. I had both of those. Same thing.
We're not old enough to have had the reel to reel one, Dave. We didn't have reel to reel, but we had cassettes.
I did have a reel to reel, but not for an answering machine. It was so it was about time they did this. So now what happens is as the message is going through and it's going through what they're saying, you can now have the option where it says slide to answer, so you can get to the call, just like call screening, like with the old answer machine. You picked up the phone and say, "Hey, I'm here. What can I do?" And you could talk to the person. So I was glad that was two of the really these number of features I just mentioned on the phone was are some of the notable ones I thought was it stood out because they really hadn't shown any love to the phone for many years, and I think this is something that was long overdue. All these features, and as far as giving some enhancements. So, but this one specifically, I think was really good.
So what's interesting is if you use a service like Google Voice, and you let that intercede, on behalf of your carrier's voicemail, Google Voice becomes where your voicemails end up, regardless of whether someone's calling that Google Voice number or your personal cell number. So that's what's happening in my case. And Google Voice has always had somewhat of a visual voicemail
Right.
type feature. But my question
Yep.
is, what happens if your cell service has visual voicemail? Does How does that work with the new visual? I'm going to just call it visual voicemail of iOS 17. How does that
Yeah.
work in combination with that?
I don't. I honestly never really used the visual voicemail on my carrier. I have T-Mobile, and I know they've had that in the past. It was more. It was more. I thought, because that's what they had before. They had the transcript where you can just go to the voicemail, look at it, and then it'll show it to you after the fact. I am not familiar with how the carriers generally do that. I know they didn't really pay as much attention to to voicemails these days, because we all, as we know, we all live in messages. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not something that really was shown to have this. But this is nice. I mean, this day and age, like I said, no one likes taking phone calls anymore. It's
That seems to
it's
be the
all in
world we're
instant
in.
messages. Yeah, it's all instant messages, and it's and texts these days. So even in the corporate world, I work in the corporate world, and yeah, we live in Microsoft Teams, and no one makes phone calls anymore. In
Yeah,
fact,
that's interesting.
they're looking to move many companies, ours included, looking to move our phone system into Microsoft Teams, do Teams calls. So the calls are all going to be integrated, just like what Google Voice does. Teams has that capability as well. So that, I think, in the phone world, you're starting to see that more and more. These companies are paying major dollars for phone systems. So most time it's IPT. So why not? You're paying Microsoft already for having Teams. Why not have that in it as well? So and I think the same thing with the just the reason I brought that example is just the same thing with the carriers versus what Apple's doing with this visual voicemail. I mean, it just makes sense, and I'm sure these carriers are just probably just gonna, let them do it.
Let them do it. Yeah. And, I just learned a week ago, week and a half ago, that Zoom now offers VoIP phone services. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I always just thought
that's
of them as a
that's new.
one-to-one or one-to-many type service. I never considered that they might have a
Yeah.
VoIP phone service, and yet there it is.
Yep. Zoom's doing the exact same thing. Now Microsoft now is doing it too, and it's just what I described. And Zoom has to reinvent themselves. So that's a whole other story. But it's that's because people are living in these services.
Yeah.
And with this visual voicemail on your iPhone, same thing. I mean, now someone can leave a message, because a lot of people still out there like to use phones. It's more personable. You want to talk to the person.
Well, sure.
I understand that. But now, when you're busy, you can see if it's important enough to grab, and now you can do it.
Is the FaceTime voicemail, is that a new feature? I just had a FaceTime voicemail pop up yesterday, and I don't
Yes.
remember ever seeing a
Good.
voicemail in FaceTime before.
Good transition, because that's what I'm also on my list of things that are really cool. Because the way FaceTime used to work before iOS 17, you would call somebody on FaceTime, and it just would keep ringing, and then it said, person's unavailable, and then you couldn't leave a message or anything. You just had to either call them back, and that was the end of it. But now what they have is they have abilities, so now you can record not only video, you can also record an audio voicemail as under FaceTime. So when the call doesn't answer, they'll give you the option. Okay, do you want to leave a video voicemail? Sure. Then you record it just like you're recording a video for anybody else, like we're doing now in video, and it saves it to that call that they missed. And then the next time they get to their FaceTime, see their missed FaceTime calls, they'll be able to go and look, and there you go. They have a voicemail or a video voicemail to listen to them as well. So really, they've combined the two when you think about it, with the phone and FaceTime, and really that was the way it was anyway, because FaceTime and phone kind of in symmetry there. So it is a cool thing here. So when it comes to that, they have done some enhancements with FaceTime. That's one of the things that they've done. Second thing they've done is now they've integrated it into Apple TV. So now what you can do is you can take your iPhone, put it at the front of and right under your TV. You can get one of those little stands and put your iPhone down there, face the rear camera right to where you're sitting at the couch, and now have your FaceTime call on your big screen TV, and be able to bring all the rest of your family in and have a much more comfortable way of having a group call.
Wow.
So,
Oh, that's pretty cool.
so yeah. So they added that as part of the some enhancement features on the Apple TV to be able to do that. So yeah, I think they did some really cool things when it comes to FaceTime on the phones, with more easier communication.
Now that's a wireless connection between your phone and the Apple TV.
It is,
Right.
and then the camera you're using continuity camera.
Oh,
which
okay.
is the
So it
new
is continuity camera.
that they're using to connect to the Apple TV, and then voila, you have your camera. And I mean, right now I'm using my iPhone as we do this show as a iPhone as a webcam, so it's very similar the way that does. In this case, I could be using continuity camera, but I'm using Camo Studio. That's different, but continuity cameras, really nice that it automatically can connect within your iCloud account and be able to use your iPhone as a camera. And I tell you, the iPhone has the best camera ever when it comes to being a webcam. I have another webcam above me here that I try to use, and I was speaking at the Mac user group yesterday, and I was like, I'm going to need to use this iPhone maybe for my demo, and I looked at this camera like, you know what, forget it. This camera is horrible. It's a Logitech, like it's 1080p, and
well, the good thing is you can use an old iPhone as your continuity camera.
And that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Once it's no longer, activated with a carrier, you don't have to worry about calls coming in. You just set it up as a camera.
Assuming you have a newer model, like this one's the 10R. I don't think continuity cameras are compatible with this model, but if you have like an 11 and higher, you should be okay with it being compatible for continuity camera.
It probably no longer is. I remember when continuity camera was first a thing, I had tested it with my old 8 Plus and it worked.
Okay.
And my intention was to use that, but it may no longer work. They tend to drop stuff off like that.
Older models, OS is getting updated. Yep. Going from probably 8 had like 12, 13.
I'll have to try it. It's been sitting down here powered off for the longest time. I should probably actually give it a go.
Well, of course, I've got the little magnetic stand that you can put at the top of your laptop, so it holds the iPhone right up as a webcam, so it's right there for you. They have a number of those devices that you can get, including one for your monitor at home too. If you wanted to do that, it's a small little mount that bends into place and mounts right to your monitor, and then you can have it right there. It uses MagSafe to attach to it.
What's your favorite mount?
My favorite mount right now is I still like it is Plexicam.
Okay.
The Plexicam, which is a plexiglass little arm that slides up and down, and I have a mount that they include in their kit that holds the iPhone nicely, and gives you a good view. And what the good thing is you actually could put it in the middle of your screen and you could see through it. Sometimes that might bother people a little bit. Like sometimes I like to move it off a little bit. Because what the goal of Plexicam was the fact that they want you to be able to look straight at the camera like I'm doing now.
Right.
For those who are watching live, and we all do it. We drift away, and that's because where the webcam is, especially when most people have their webcams up here at the top of the monitor. I'm looking up like this, and most of the time I'm looking down like this. So,
at least Apple never did what Dell did with their one laptop, where they put the camera at the bottom of the bezel. Yeah, that was the dumbest move.
XPS, yeah.
It was an XPS 13, and they finally moved it back up to the top again. But good gracious, who designed that?
Dumb. Oh, because they were expecting you to tent it because it was a 2-in-1. So you can flip it over and make it into a tablet.
Yeah, I could see that. All right. Well, we'll play devil's advocate.
That's a whole other story.
Yeah, that's a whole other story.
That's a whole other story with Dell. So good transition on that, because that's really a great thing. So next thing I'll talk about is messages. I think they did some pretty amazing things with messages. Notably, is what I'm really thrilled about is the fact that they've put all the apps in a small little menu on the left-hand side. All you see when you're in your messages now is a plus. And when you tap that plus, this menu will come right up, and it starts with camera, then photos, and then stickers I'll talk about in a minute. Apple Cache, audio, locations, all kinds of stuff that is at your fingertips now. Because remember in iOS 16 and prior, those buttons were all down in a row just above where you type the message, and it was kind of a nuisance. And I gotta tell you, that's one of my pet peeves. Well, it was one of my pet peeves. I always hated having to do that whenever I wanted to get something. You never can remember where to go. Well, this has made it so much easier when it comes to navigating through messages and getting to that menu, because it just makes life so much easier. And the nice thing too is you actually can customize that list too, and they made it super easy by doing that, because you can actually go into settings and under messages, and there's a selection there called message apps, and you can toggle on and off any of the apps you don't want in the list, because there's restaurants and people that they think you're going to want to use your text to go in there. But you can just like any other thing in the settings, you got the toggle button, just tap it so it turns it off from green to gray, and it removes them out of the list. And you can reorganize the list too, so maybe there are more key things that you use all the time when it comes to that. It just makes it so much easier, which is really cool when it comes to what Messages has. A couple other notable things, there was a lot of stuff in Messages that they changed. I will say stickers is really kind of a cool thing. And what stickers are and they've had this already in photos, where you'll be able to tap a subject in the photo and it kind of lifts it up from the photo and allows you to save it and paste it into a message. Well, now you have a collection of stickers. Now you can create this collection, because when you go into start Messages, on the left-hand side, besides your emojis, you'll have a place there to store all of your stickers. So if you have a cat or a dog or a floral arrangement, a car, any subject that you decide to pick out of a photo, and just tap and hold it, you can drag it right into where the stickers are and put it right in there and create your own stickers. You also can do live stickers, which allows you to be able to and stylize it. You also can get very creative and start making some animations and use your live photos. And so they've really done some really cool things with stickers. And I'm sure this is something you're probably going to play with, right, Mike?
Well, it's actually one of my frustrations, and I'm glad you talked about all that stuff. I'm glad you talked about all that, but I'll save it for our frustrations part of the conversation, because I've been having a lot of trouble with this very feature that you've just been describing. But we'll save that for a few minutes.
No, I will agree with you on that. We'll go to that when we're ready to discuss that. So this is very cool. The other thing that was super cool and was just announced is the new feature called Standby. And what that does is it now kind of turns your iPhone into into kind of a nightstand clock and calendar. You can have photos be flashing, and the aim of this was to have it sit on your bedside, and you'd be able to see that instead of at least you have a clock now. You don't the days of the clock radio are pretty much gone at this point. So finally, Apple has come up with something here. Instead of you having to go reach to it and tap it to see what time it is, well, now this will stay on all night long, and it doesn't, because you're going to have it plugged in obviously at night. But they've got all some really cool things in here, including like a big clock, and it also has the live activities that are there in full screen. You can do S-Lady results in standby mode. So I just don't, because I was going to say with like I say Siri,
with that new
you don't
feature,
have to say hey.
Yeah,
you don't have to say hey anymore. So that makes even more of a just like saying the A lady, we call it for Amazon. You just don't want to be triggering people's devices. So, but yeah, this feature is super cool, and the way it works is it has to be sitting in landscape mode, and the quickest way for it to work is if you use the MagSafe charger. Here I have I'll show it on camera here. I've got I might have one, of course. That's the MagSafe charger, which I absolutely love. And this charger is a round cylinder that just slaps around in the back of the iPhone, and does the charging relatively quickly. And what you do is if you have a stand that's sitting at your bedside, put it in landscape mode, set it on there with that charger, and in a matter of a minute, when it attempts to go to sleep, it just goes right into standby mode and allow you to be able to interact with that.
Are you enjoying standby mode? Is that something that you're using frequently? Are you adding widgets to it and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I haven't done a ton of playing with it, but I mean, I like it, and the fact I gonna probably have to adjust my nightstand setting here because I have a stand that is a Qi charging. It was a
That's what I have.
it's a Mophie. It's a Mophie one and you can do it on the side with this one, but it was designed to be in portrait mode when the phone sits in there. So, and you saw, if anybody watched the Apple events as well as WWDC when they introduced this, they had that. I think it's a Belkin one or for one of the manufacturers where it actually has a thin little post and it's the MagSafe magnetic stand on it, and you can just pop your phone on there and it just sits in isolation by itself there, which is kind of cool. But yeah, so I'm trying to work through. See, do I really want to spend all this other money? And of course, I'm already crazy buying all this other stuff as I do
right.
anyway. But yeah, so that's the way you got to do it. I mean, you also can plug it in with with your Lightning, and now, which I can now have to get used to, is my USB-C on my iPhone. That you can have it plugged in just with a wired cord, and you can do the same thing. Put it in landscape mode. And
oh, it'll really? So as long as it's plugged in with the cord,
any power source, right?
Oh, interesting. Yep. Interesting. I have the same thing as you. Mine is a Belkin, and it's designed to be vertical, and it's a Qi charger. It's not a MagSafe charger. Now, the one I have in the car is MagSafe, but the one in the house is not. And yeah, I'm with you. I think we mentioned this during the reaction time live stream. I made some, flipping comment about, yeah, you spend $1,000 on a phone, but you spend $2,500 on new accessories to go with that phone. That seems to be the case every time I buy a new Mac anyway. But I don't think I'm ready to just get a whole new stand. Mine works fine, and I can charge my watch, and I can charge the AirPods, and I can charge the phone. I just can't do the standby. What do they call it? It's not standby. Or is it standby?
Yeah, it's standby.
Standby.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You speak of power. I'm just going to get this in my mind because I can.
Well, I'm just segueing right and left here for you.
Yeah. This is unique to the iPhone 15, of course, because they've just now switched to the USB-C. We can talk about the iPhone a little bit here, but I just wanted to mention because you talked about power. Mm-hmm. You now can take your USB-C MagSafe charger as well as your Apple Watch USB-C charger, plug it into the iPhone, and you can charge your Apple Watch right from your iPhone.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so therein lies the value of having USB-C on an iPhone is because you never could do that because the power was so different between the Lightning and the USB-C. Sorry, I'm getting off of track here, but iOS 17.
No. That's an awesome new feature. Now, is that an iOS 17 feature or is that an iPhone 15 feature?
It's iPhone.
Oh no, it'd be a 15 feature because it's the USB-C.
Yeah, because the iPhone 15 has the USB-C now.
Dumb question, Mike. Yeah. Okay, I get it.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, let me crank through a couple more things here on iOS 17 that really stood out to me. I did forget to mention in messages. We always get these two-factor authentication messages that come through whenever you have to sign into your account. So you get those text messages and you get the little code, and it allows you to, as we know how easy it is, the keyboard comes up and it sees it and lets you just tap that the number above the keyboard, and then it automatically puts it in. But the biggest pain was the fact that having all these messages, then you had to go back in your messages and you got to go delete. Well, now they've added this in iOS 17 where you actually can go into settings under passwords and then under password options, and you can turn on clean up automatically under verification codes. And not only will it do it for the messages that come through your through messages itself, it'll do it in email. So as long as you're using the Apple Mail on the iPhone, it will automatically delete those as well if you get it sent to you as an email as opposed to a text.
Wow. Okay.
I remember how much a nuisance that is. You have the whole list of those codes you get, assuming you're using two-factor authentication, I hope. That I get those messages all the time, and I think this is really important.
I don't disagree with you, and I'm glad you mentioned where to find that setting because I was trying to find it all over the place. I was looking in the messages settings. I was not looking at the passwords.
It got confused because it's involving security. They brought it into the passwords section because you have to obviously Face ID to authenticate it. So that's why they put that in there.
Sure. Now, the reason I was kind of smiling is because I just ignore them. I just let them accumulate. I have my messages set to retain
Yeah.
forever, and so
And then after a while, you're like,
they're just there
read 'em all.
somewhere. Every entity that sends me text with those codes, they're bundled together. So it's not like they're 100 different codes from Google or 100 different codes from whomever.
Right.
They're
Excuse me.
they're all bundled together. So I guess I don't really see them. But yeah, it would be nice to not have to worry about them cluttering up space in iCloud, really,
Yep.
because all your messages that are saved, if you set it to save forever like I do, everything that's saved, you're just cluttering up space in iCloud.
Yeah, because that's the biggest thing, and we'll talk about the caveats of pre-upgrading in a bit. But that's the biggest reason a message is to accumulate and save it. You take up a huge amount of space in your iCloud backup. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they do, especially those photo messages.
Yep.
Cool. What else? Anything else really
I
excite
got
you
a couple
about
more
this?
here.
You got a whole
definitely-
list. Okay, cool.
I got my list here. Yeah, I'm ready to give you. I mean, I'm getting near the end here. I'm not going to.
Well, let's go for it.
Hours. AirDrop. They made some huge improvements with AirDrop, and namely called Name Drop. So now what you can do is you can come up with somebody and take your iPhone, and I'm showing on camera here, and you can bump it. So now both these phones can go together here, and you can send somebody your contact just by doing that. As long as you go into the AirDrop feature, it allows you to be able to do that and send somebody their contact really with ease. The other thing you can do too is which I found to be really cool, and it is kind of fun too because it animates it. It has that kind of like a little bit of a bubbling. Oh, it looks like you're connecting, and then it comes up on screen. Do you want to accept? You can also do this with photos, and you know how you have the steps you had to go through to get it to do photos.
AirDrop,
As long as you have AirDrop set, like if it's somebody in your contacts, and if it's not set for everyone, of course, don't do that, please. Or what you can do is you can go to AirDrop and then just bump phones. It'll send anything like a photo or a file. You can do that directly through AirDrop now, which is an enhancement. More of the focus was Name Drop, but I think the photos thing is kind of cool too.
How big of a security concern do you think Name Drop is? Obviously, you can't set Name Drop to be contacts only because you're sending your contact card.
Right.
So how big of an issue do you think this might be? I mean, I know you have to bump phones, but what if someone just walks up to you and sees your phone in your back pocket and bumps their phone against it? Do you have to then accept it?
You do. Oh yeah. It isn't just going to boom
It
and
doesn't
send
automatically
something.
get sent.
Oh,
Okay,
no,
well that's
no.
good.
Yeah. So yeah, it still has to ask for your permission. You have to answer the question and give your permission to accept it.
Good. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. So they add those things, and then the one other thing that stands out to me is Find My. They've now added a feature for AirTag. Now, what you can do is your AirTag. And here's a good example. My wife might be driving my car. She has my car keys. My AirTag is on my car keys, and I don't have my AirTag onto her account. So, in a matter of time, as we know, all the security issues that were happening with
right.
with AirTags, that you could put rogue AirTags and they say there's an AirTag here somewhere that we don't know what it is. Well, now
Your
what
husband
you can do
is tracking you.
Yeah, exactly. So now what you can do is you actually can go into Find My, and there's a section where all your AirTags are. You tap it. There's a choice there now is you now can share that AirTag with someone. So it can be anybody. As long as they have an email account, you can set it up. iCloud account that you can set it up, and that AirTag will now be shared with a family member, with a friend, or whoever you want to share it with. Good example. A lot of times people are traveling. A lot of people are using AirTags these days to put them in luggage. Maybe you want to share that AirTag so you can help monitor that luggage when it's coming off the belt at the airport. So yeah, they have added some nice features in Find My, as well as with the watch. The watch is now in Find My too, so you actually can send a ping to the watch if it's missing somewhere. And they've added that feature for your Apple Watch. So they really added some enhancements in Find My when it comes to that. The other thing too is, I think a lot of us do this. You have the Ping My iPhone from your Apple Watch, so you can't. So a lot of times you put your iPhone somewhere and you can't remember where it is. So you know how you do it. You ping it and it goes da 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 da. You know. Well, now they've reversed the process. You can do that with your Apple Watch. So now there is a feature in the control center that you add it to the list of the items in Control Center called Ping My Watch. You tap that, it'll send a ping tone to the watch, because there's times where you've set it down. It's probably probably set it down in your bed.
Oh yeah,
buried
I've done that
in your blankets and all that stuff. Yeah, now you can add that in the Control Center on the iPhone, and the iPad for that matter, and be able to do Ping My Watch and be able to find it.
Oh, that's nice. That's real nice.
That was overdue.
I think so.
It was always a nuisance. I would always find my Apple Watch, but it was always times I would misplace it, and what the heck did I do with my Apple Watch?
I mean, I guess in theory you could use Find My, right? But that's not precise enough to be able to really locate.
It's got much more precise.
Yeah,
it's got much more precise now. They've added even more precise location finding, because as soon as now as you put when you enable Find My to try to find your device, it starts the tracking process, and the preciseness. I just tried it the other day, and boy, I was downstairs. I thought I'd test it because I had my iPhone upstairs, and I was downstairs in my Apple Watch, and did the Find My, and it did the proximity. Oh, it looks like it's about 24 feet from you, and it just kept moving until I got close, and then it just just like they added that feature previous, but they've really improved on the accuracy of finding a device like that.
but that accuracy is limited to the 15 and the Watch 9. And the Ultra 2, right? I mean, I don't think that feature, I don't think precision findings on, say, a Watch 6.
Is it probably right? I didn't remember looking at that, but we'll have to go back and look. But
yeah, we'll have to look at that, because I'm not sure.
Maybe at least Series 8, Series 7 might be okay.
Yeah, I remember seeing it under the 15 features, but I wonder if that rolls back to previous models.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, though. It is eerily accurate.
It's gotten much better in this version for iOS 17. Yep.
Cool.
I could go on, but
go on. What else do we? Because one of the things I mentioned to you, I wanted to talk about are user interface and security enhancements, and we're covering those as we're talking. So, yeah, let's just keep going on with this, because there's some great stuff that came out with iOS 17, and some of it, like in I've been running it just as long as you. Well, no, I haven't been running the beta, but the final version I've been running just as long as everyone else, that installed it on Monday. And I haven't noticed half of these features you're talking about, because it's not something I use. But on the other hand, I can see now, as you describe them, where I may actually begin using those features. So I think this is valuable to go through this.
Great. I'll mention that, just you're talking about just starting off using iOS 17, and just give you a quick experience with iOS 17 on a new device as well as an old device. Apple did release a really serious security update. It was a 0-day exploit. It was iOS 17.0.1 that came out as we're recording this. That came out earlier this week. So absolutely imperative that you update and install that. One other thing that happened was with the iPhone 15 is the ability to being able to restore your data, and I can see you're smiling because you probably already know about this. The ability to be able to restore your data directly from iPhone to iPhone, which I don't do because it takes a lot longer. Basically bricked the phone. So you had to actually go in, had to go back and reset it for the first time, and then start over again. And then you had to go through and make sure the update. That's a different update. So that's 17.0.2 for the iPhone's 15. Yeah. So just be aware of that as far as that security goes. Some people had some experience where they're never prompted. When I ran the first started up the iPhone 15 Pro Max that I have, it did prompt me that there's a software update. It didn't even waste any time. It just started installing it. So they obviously changed it. Yeah, as soon as that issue came up, they moved it into that you had to. They knew it. You have to update it right away. Don't even give you an option to say yes or no.
And just to be clear, if you're on a 14 or a 13 or whatever, you are not going to see 17.0.2. You're only going to
Point
see
two is only
17.0.1.
yeah is only for the iPhone 15. So,
Yep.
but
Yep.
of course now we've got 17.1 to look forward to. But that's a whole other topic.
That's another week.
Yeah. A couple other things I'll throw out there as far as features goes that I found. Haptic touch. Now that kind of went away when with iOS 17, kind of, but you actually can go back in and enable it. A lot of times people like to have that 3D touch when they're tapping an icon, or you wanting to do a lot of that stuff here. If you go into settings, if you go into accessibility, and then go into touch, and then there's the choice there, haptic touch. You can set it for fast, so then 3D touch is going to work for you again. So it's going to give you that nice feeling, because like what we're used to, because we've always had that. We just tap the icon, and it was nice to be able to kind of feel the haptic touch. And this is an accessibility feature, so a lot of times, people who have a little more challenges with touch and with their hands. But this is nice to make sure. I think it's a good idea to have it enabled to be able to use it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that's not the same as a feature that has disappeared, and that's the 3D touch.
Oh,
Right?
actually,
Didn't
it
they
brings
call it
back
3D touch? It
they
does
call it
bring
3D
that
touch,
back?
but it brings it back. Yeah, it brings it back as the same way it works, the same feeling. So you're getting that 3D touch again when you set this.
But in terms of how you interact with the icons, you're not going to get. Are you going to get that? Like when you would 3D touch something, you could press harder to get different options than if you press softer, right? And that's what this brings back.
I'm going to go back in here. I just brought it up on screen here real quick so you can kind of see it. I don't know if it's blurry or not, but it probably is. But it's under touch duration. They moved it to default, and default doesn't give you the 3D touch. So you also have the choice of fast and slow. Fast is you need to change it to fast, and now you're going to get that 3D touch feeling back again.
Oh, interesting.
By default, it's set to, by default it's set to default, and and you want to change it back to fast because in iOS 16 it just had fast and slow, so they added this in iOS 17. So
okay, oh, that's cool. That's cool. That'll be nice to have that back for a lot of folks.
Yeah. So yeah, set it to fast. Another thing that's interesting with Apple Music. If you go into if you go into settings and music, there is a selection called crossfade. I was listening to some music last night using my AirPods Pro, and it was a playlist, and then it was kind of neat to hear how it just kind of crossfaded automatically to the next song. And because normally the songs would just go right to the end and then go to the next song, but now it's got a feature called crossfade, and you can adjust the seconds when it does it. Like it goes
that's
from like
nice.
2 to 7 seconds, I think it is. So there's a little slider allows you to be able to switch between those two.
7 seconds. That's a long time.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
I remember crossfade from iTunes. When we had iTunes on the Mac, that had a crossfade feature. I don't know if Apple Music on the Mac has it, but that's a nice smooth transition then from one song to another, kind of your own little personal crossfade DJ, if you will.
Yeah. So it is a nice thing to be aware of. Just look for crossfade, and when crossfade does it's already there. It's kind of right in the menu under the audio list, because you have like the equalizer and sound check, and crossfade is either you turn it on or off. Well, actually, no, it goes from 1 second to 12 seconds. Now I see. Now I'm looking at the bar.
Dang,
here. That's long.
That's a long crossfade, even 7.
Yeah. So you can go from 1 second to 12 seconds. I have it set to 6. So.
Wow. And that's under settings and then music, or is it within the music
settings? App? It's under settings and then music.
Okay.
In the settings, in the settings location there, you can go in there, and that's where it is.
You know what? I'm not even seeing music, but I'm not sure I have the music app installed actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. You might use something else. Yeah. and I had to touch on a little bit with cameras. The camera itself, we could spend probably a good long time talking about the new camera features, but this one I thought was notable that should be made aware of to listeners here. If you go into the camera settings, it's going under settings, under camera, and under formats. Now we know about the formats where it was set to the most compatible because it does use that HEIF format where it makes it so it's more compressed but still good quality and not JPEG. But sometimes
high efficiency codec, yeah,
the high efficiency, right? So if you actually go into the camera settings under camera, and it's under formats, and then you have the first thing we talked about is the high efficiency or the most compatible. If you set it to the most compatible, it'll always save as a JPEG. If you do it as high efficiency, then it'll be, like I said, the HEIF or the HEVC formats, which is the high efficiency of files.
Yeah.
And then you have the photo mode, which the photo mode itself, which is under photo capture, gives you the main camera can be at 1x and saved at 12 or 24 megapixel. So that's in photo mode. But what I'm talking about is on the higher end Pro series. This applies to the Pro iPhones. This applies to the old ones too. Under the iPhone 14 has the same setting that you should change, but they've done a different thing now. If anybody's, I know you're real familiar with RAW is and Pro RAW as far as resolution and really, really high end photos, the best photos you can get. Also, the larger size files.
Largest file size, yeah.
Yes. So if you go under Pro default, and there's a couple choices here. So you have the HEIF Max that gives you up to 48 megapixels as far as the type what the resolution is going to be. Those file sizes are at about 5 megabytes.
I hope not 5
and that's
gigabytes.
at 40. Yeah, we're being real trouble. So then there's two other Pro RAW formats. It's the Pro RAW 12 megapixel and the Pro RAW up to 48 megapixels. If you have it set to the Pro RAW Max, the one file would be at 75 megabytes. So you taking 10 pictures or maybe 20 or 100 pictures, that's a lot of files there.
You better look at that 512 gig model.
Yeah, which I did. Got the 512 this time.
Yeah. So what setting do you use, Dave? Are you using the RAW? Because
I'm doing the H.
You're coming from that DSLR world. I know you're a camera buff as well. And as far as I know, you've pretty much moved to the iPhone as your primary camera.
Yeah. I honestly, my Nikon D7000's been sitting in my closet for quite. I probably should dust it off and just I remember you, baby.
So now, having come from DSLRs, did you switch to the RAW format, or what is your setting at?
I got it set up to the HEIF Max. I toggle between the two, and where I just use high efficiency and just be at standard. But the thing is, it puts this at the 48 megapixel, so you're going to get the absolute best photo that you want. And I had some demo photos that I saw from Apple, because they're demonstrating what the iPhone 15's camera can do, and my gosh, the photos are just astonishing. I'm not surprised at all that more and more professional photographers are looking to maybe just put this iPhone 15 as one of their cameras that they do for shoots, whether it be video or photos. But this is just notable if you do have the iPhone 15 Pro and just to be aware of that, especially if you didn't get a lot of space. The good thing is the iPhone 15 Pros now have the ability to use a high-speed USB-C cable, the 40 megabit speed cables, and now you can actually connect it directly to your Mac, and you can be offloading your photos if you're at a shoot and you have a Mac right next to you. Have a cable plug right into it, and it'll just offloads it on the Mac right on the fly, so you don't have to go through all those steps of having to put it in the cloud and transferring them over or doing a transfer after the fact.
And in theory, with USB-C, you could probably get an external drive now too, like folks do with iPads.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
This is got that capability. But anyway, that's another one.
Now this is pure anecdotal Mike's eyes looking at this type thing. But I've personally compared the high efficiency images to JPEG images, and hands down, high efficiency are so much sharper. The colors are better. Just overall, if you can shoot in the high efficiency format, whether it's the standard format or as you said, the high efficiency max format,
Right.
pick that over JPEG every time. If you're importing pictures into your Mac, you're bringing them into Photos, you can always export them into JPEG. Otherwise, apps like Affinity Photo are recognizing the high efficiency photo formats now. So yeah, if you can shoot in that high efficiency, shoot in it, because there is absolutely a difference between the pictures that you take with one versus the other, and it's visible to the naked eye, or at least to my naked eye, I can see it. And hands down, I'm not ever switching back to JPEG on the phone again.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Most time who I'm working with have Macs, so that they can easily open those files. And there's utilities out there you can convert them if you had to. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I could keep going on, but I'm sure you want to get some other things in here too.
All right, so let's look at how many things do you have left on your list?
I'll give you one more.
I was going to say, pick your favorite out of how many you have left. If you have 10 left, let's pick
one more. I'm going with one. I got one more left.
One more left. Okay, we got one more favorite new feature of iOS 17 per Mr. In Touch with iOS himself, Dave Ginsburg. All right, Dave, what is that last? This is the ultimate pick. This is the thing that's going to knock everybody flat on the ground, and they're going to say, "All right, I have to get iOS 17 now."
Well, I'm
no pressure.
Standing out some of the features of Safari. The number one thing out of Safari, there's other things that's all I'm focused on for this as far as other thing, but is the ability to now be able to create profiles. You can keep your browsing separate for topics like work and personal with different profiles in Safari. Allows you to keep that history separate, your extensions, your tabs, cookies, favorites, all that stuff can now be separated out. So you could switch between those profiles as you browse. So that comes in real handy for something. I'm thinking not only for someone who does work and personal stuff on their iPhones, which that tends to be pretty common, as family members too. Maybe you can just switch to the profile for your kids, because the kids love to take your iPhone and play. And when they're on the browser, sometimes you don't want to be looking at have to see their history. Well, you kind of do want to see their history especially if they're young. But,
yeah, kind of.
But if it's something you want to have as a separate profile, you actually can monitor the profile, so that's not a problem when it comes to younger kids. But I think the main ability for the Safari to have a profile, I think, is awesome, and being able to separate that out.
Very cool. Yeah, I can absolutely see that. If you've used another browser, like Firefox, you're used to having profiles. Google Chrome has had profiles for a while. I think it's about time Safari has had them, and it's a welcome change to Safari. And it's nice to hear that that's making its way not only to Sonoma, but to iOS as well, and iPadOS, I should say. When I say, look, let's be honest. When I say iOS, I mean for the phone
iPadOS too,
and for the iPad. That's my point of reference when I say that.
Yep. And there's my last tip.
Yeah, exactly. I did want to talk briefly, and we'll get to this in a few moments. I wanted to talk briefly about considerations people might need to, things they might need to keep in mind before upgrading. How do you back up your phone? How do you make sure that your data transfers properly? And maybe even hardware requirements. But before we get to that, and we won't spend a whole lot of time on that because that type of information is easy to find. Before we get to that, we kind of danced around this a little bit ago. What about frustrations? I mentioned I have one, but there's always room for improvement when there's a new version of iOS that hits our phones. Have you encountered anything that people might really want to know about before they push that upgrade button?
Frustrations sometimes you're going to have with the actual restoring of your phone from one to another. In this time around, the 17 migration went okay for me, especially the fact now that most phones these days are now on eSIM. And if you buy the 15, you're going to go through eSIM when it comes to that translation. So as far as that improvement goes, it's gotten better, but there's not. I'm just trying to think what's stood out for me in iOS 17. And, again, I've only run it since a week now, so it's hard to come up with things that have been an absolute nuisance. But it, yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I really can't give you an exact one that I can think of top of my head here that I've had absolute frustrations with. But I think for the most part, with this time around, I think iOS 17 has been pretty good. Why don't you go ahead and tell me what your frustration is, and maybe I come up with something here.
He's
'Cause
going
like
to
I said,
leave it.
there's so,
He's going to put it on my shoulders to
no, but you
complain
have
about
something,
Apple here.
and there is probably something I'm just not remembering at the moment.
Well, you mentioned this cool new feature. The in messages they've now put that little plus button next to where you type in your message, and you tap that touch button, and the concept is great. I love how it works. You just tap that button, and as you said, you can jump to camera or photos or stickers. Some of the other things that are in there are audio and location, digital touch, things that we've seen in those little pills above the messages in the past, Memoji, what have you.
Right.
The frustration for me comes in particular, and you said, hey Mike, you're probably looking forward to this feature with stickers. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not the implementation of it, but there seems to be some real wonkiness in here in terms of how it works. For example, when I tap the little plus button, I see two of my purchased sticker packs showing up in that list.
Yeah.
But if I tap stickers, they're nowhere to be found. So those two sticker packs are not, if I tap stickers, those two, and look, I'm a Disney nerd and I like Star Wars, so I'll just go ahead and tell you guys, it's Mickey's 90th birthday sticker pack and the Grogu sticker pack, okay? Those are the two I'm talking about. Those show up in that full list, that sheet that pops up when you tap the plus button. They
Mm-hmm.
show up there, but if I tap stickers, they're nowhere to be found. But my other purchase sticker packs do show up there. So there seems to be some sort of disconnect with how stickers are displayed or not displayed within this new way of working with them. And then the other
Mm-hmm.
frustration is I don't think the little toggles to turn on and off the messages apps work. They don't work. I have it, if you tap stickers, you get all these little pills above your, or I guess below where you type in your message. They show up now below it. And there are apps there, as you mentioned, restaurants, and I'll pick on Taco Bell here. There's a Taco Bell little pill floating there, and a Domino's. I don't
Yep.
need those. I don't want those.
So,
So I did exactly what you described. I went into settings, and I went to messages, and I went to, what do they call it in there? Apps, messages, and then, iMessage apps. And
right.
I scroll down to the bottom and I say, included with an app. And then I can just hit the little slider, off, 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 off. I turned almost all of them off, and they all still show up. I cannot get them to disappear. Now, I did notice that you can say delete. You can actually go into there and you can delete one, but then that deletes the original app. I don't
No, you
I
won't do
don't want
that.
to delete the original app. So I think the primary issue I'm hitting here, and I kind of hoped that 17.0.1 was going to fix it, and unfortunately it didn't. But when I turn off all these iMessage apps, I want them to be off. and right now they're not. So I've literally only left like 5 on, and yet they all show up within the messages app when I tap stickers. So something is definitely wonky in there. But you know what? I'll be honest, other than that, and that's really been my only frustration, and look, I can work around that. It's not a big deal, but there's clearly something not working right within here. Other than that, I'll be honest, I installed iOS 17 and it was smooth. I didn't have any
Okay.
major problems with it. Apps all worked as I expected them to. The only big standout feature that was right in my face were the contact poster. You know, that was right there. Hey, do you want to set up your contact poster? Yeah, let's play with that. And that was kind of fun to play with and set up and get working the way I wanted to work. But on the whole, this iOS 17 upgrade was, I think I agree with you. It was smooth. I've had no, other than the stickers and the apps issue, I've had no problems with it. And I even picked up a little quick tip, which I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention. But when you're in messages and you want to insert a photo, you don't actually have to press the plus and then tap photos. If you
Yep.
press and hold the plus, it jumps straight to your photos. So that's the tip I wanted to share. I'm not even with in touch with iOS, Dave.
Oh, you got me on that one. I didn't even see that one.
Oh, you didn't know that?
I'm gonna make.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of stumbled across it and realized that if you press and hold the plus, it goes right to your photos, and you don't have to do that double tap. So I thought that was pretty good. Other than that, yeah, pretty smooth. Little weirdness in terms of getting to the different sticker packs, but once I do get to them, they work. You know, they do what they're supposed to do. They're just organizationally, it's a little odd, and I sure would love to be able to turn off those apps that I don't need in
Oh,
there, and yet they're not turning off. So I don't know what's going on there.
something's. It's something with your phone because I just went ahead and did that to myself and started getting rid of a bunch of others, and they're not there anymore.
And they're not
So
there anymore. See,
something
and
is.
all mine are still there. In fact, the interesting thing is they're not even all there.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
notably you said like I have Taco Bell. I just removed it, and yeah, my list is down to like bare minimum. So there's not hardly any things in here. They all removed. So it's kind of
now,
weird.
are you talking about, here's the question. Are you talking about removed from the sheet that pops up?
Yes.
See, and I'm specifically talking about when I tap the plus and then tap stickers.
Oh, okay.
When I tap the plus and then tap stickers, all these
Oh,
stickers,
okay. I
and
misunderstood. Okay, I
they're
see you now.
still there. And in the past, I could get rid of them. And now, you know, you can tap edit, you can rearrange them, and you can swipe to delete a sticker app.
Uh,
But what I noticed is when you swipe to delete a sticker app, it deletes the original app as well.
Because yeah,
So
I see edit. You can tap edit, then it gives you the minus to remove. Here
yeah,
I got
so
Surfshark. I don't want that on there.
so for
So
example, if
deleting this.
you know if I
Oh, I see.
it,
Yeah, it deletes the app. Why
it
would they
deletes
do
the
that?
app, and
Good catch.
I just don't want to see Taco Bell listed anymore. I don't have a need to send, I don't know, a burrito supreme to somebody. So I have no idea what it even does when you tap it. But
All
it,
right,
it
I have come up with the one now that I just remembered. So when are you ready?
oh, all right. Yes. Let's so you got a tip too then.
Battery life. That is right away when I started with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I had it plugged in. I charged it up right away, and I was so used to the iPhone 14 Pro Max was fine. I mean, I would get amazing battery life. I mean, it would go. I could go a whole full day, and it would probably be like around 40% at the worst. But so then all of a sudden I started noticing like it was like dropping, like it was down to like 30%. But by
Mm-hmm.
midday I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And this is a pet peeve of mine always is the background app refresh. And
Yeah.
those are all turned on when you upgrade to a new version of iOS. Yeah, so now I had to go in and turn that completely off because I don't want any app to be doing background app refresh because it's a battery hog and it shouldn't be doing that all the time. I don't know why Apple insists on that being on as default, where you should have a choice to turn it on or off.
Oh,
which you
I'm
do.
gonna have
But
to check that. So you're saying even if I turned off background app refresh for a particular app, it's going to be back on again?
no, no. You can do it individually, or you can turn it off all completely. So, no, that will stay. Once you turn it off, it's off. But
Per app.
I can put completely. Yeah, per app. You can do it per app,
Oh, okay, okay.
or you can turn them all off.
I
I
thought
would
I was
just turn
going to
them
have to
all
go
off, and
through and
if it's, I just turn them all off, or you can do them individually off, and then just leave ones you think they're important to have on. You can turn them on. But I mean, to me, the background app fresh, it's a frustrating thing because I just don't see it that necessary. It doesn't affect functionality for the most part that I've ever noticed.
what about
So
navigation?
no, it shouldn't affect it. It's just all this is just it's refreshing the app in itself, my understanding. So, but I could be wrong on that. But
There's one app I use, and I mentioned it on the show before, and it's pretty valuable to me as a small business owner. It's called Mile IQ, and
okay,
it tracks my every trip I make with my vehicle. It tracks the starting point and the ending point, and then I can then classify my drives as personal or business. And if it was going to the client or business banking or whatever it is, I can
yeah.
classify
So
those
there's a case.
drives.
Leave them on.
And
There's a case.
so,
Leave it on.
yeah, I think background app refresh is probably needed for that. In fact, if you go through and force quit the app, Mile IQ specifically, if you force quit it, swipe it away, it'll come up and squawk and say, "Oh, no, 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 you need you need to keep this running in the background, or
Right.
we ain't going to be able to track your drives." So, yeah, but that honestly, that's it. The little sticker thing was the thing that stuck out at me, and yeah, it's like I said, not anything I can't work around, but the whole rest of the process has been smooth. And now I'm excited to make a regular phone call with it. I've only been making business calls with it, which are through Google Voice. So now I need to make a regular phone call so I can see what this new interface looks like.
Yeah, there you go. But don't get me wrong with background app refresh. You don't have to. You have the option of turning them off completely. But if you find that I mean, I looking through my list of apps here. It's like all the Amazon apps. Why do I need to have those doing background
No,
refresh?
yeah,
But
you don't need that
like
on.
Best Buy, do I need to have them do app refresh? No. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
here's
so
a tip
many
for
in
you,
this list
Dave.
that
Here's a tip. Just delete the Best Buy app.
that's right. Yeah, I could do that. But yeah, there's definitely much apps listed in here that I could easily just not it not being on. So it just kind of I know it's just frustrating because you start
Yeah.
out a whole new iOS and it could turn them all back on again. And just be aware of that is a bit of frustration.
And of course, for those who are upgrading from iOS 16 to 17 or even 15 to 17, speaking of battery life, one thing to be aware of is that your battery life always does go down quite a bit after an operating
Right.
system upgrade because of all the behind the scenes stuff that iOS is taking care of, the cleanup and all that's
Indexing.
happening after a major operating system upgrade. That's all happening. And it's going to happen regardless. Sometimes rebooting your phone helps a little bit, but for the most part, expect my experience has always been somewhere between
First
3 to
first 2
5
days.
days, something like that, and then it starts to kind of come back to where it should be.
Yep.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah, very cool. All right, so we've learned about all the great new features of iOS 17. Is there anything that, and you kind of mentioned this a moment ago, but is there anything that people should really do first before upgrading? Not from phone,
Yes.
not getting a new phone, but if they just,
No.
like
No.
my
Yeah.
13, I want to upgrade my 13. What's the first thing I should do before I push that upgrade to iOS 17 button?
Back up. Go to
Yeah.
the iCloud and go in and actually force it to back up. It may have backed up, but you probably are going to be using. It usually does it in the overnight hours, like 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Just do another backup just before you do it. It doesn't hurt to get a third-party backup tool too, like iMazing. I think iMazing is a great app to take a look at, and I've done that already with my 14 Pro Max to have a backup of it just in case you got to go back to it. But the great thing about iMazing is you can granularly go into all the different apps and like if you're missing a message and messages or any of that stuff, you can actually get to it and be able to extract whatever you need. But for most people, I think iCloud is probably sufficient enough. Some people are still backing up through the Mac itself. There's that other option if you want to back up through your Mac, going through Finder. You plug in the iPhone and you tap the iPhone, and it'll bring up methods of being able to back up manually using the Finder, and you're gonna be backing up on your Mac, and you can restore it that way too if you need to.
Do you think it's a good
Always a
idea
backup.
to, most, not everybody, I encounter folks who don't have this turned on, but I think most folks have iCloud backup turned on,
Right.
unless they're on the free plan. If you're on the free plan, they might not have
Yeah.
it on. But I
Yeah, if you're on
expect,
a free plan, you should be backing up.
yeah, you're not backing up much
could
of
turn off-
anything, really.
Turn off iCloud and just do a Finder backup, and not that, or my iMazing.
But even if you do iCloud backups, do you think that you should do a Mac backup as well? Just as
I
a
don't
little
think it's a
belt and
bad idea.
suspenders?
It's kind of weird how you have to do it, because once you have iCloud enabled, it doesn't give you the option. You gotta turn off iCloud for the moment. Let
Oh,
it back up
okay.
through Finder.
I
and
always
then
thought you
its
could
thing
do a
again.
manual backup through there.
No, it looks grayed out anytime I get to it. So
Okay. They probably
So
changed
that's-
that. And then I do have a question. This came up as you were describing, how you back up and using iMazing and things like that. For folks who upgrade to iOS 17 and then later say, I'm not really happy with this, I want to go back to 16, can you do that?
you can for like the first few days, but there's no going back once Apple starts not signing the previous version anymore.
And that's the key,
before-
right? If they stop
Right.
signing iOS 16, then you just can't go back.
You can't. No, I mean
It's not like reloading a Mac from scratch or something.
Right.
You just can't reload your iPhone from scratch, or you can't go back to a previous version of iOS if Apple has stopped signing it.
when they do full OS updates, like from 16 to 17, they generally leave. I think they usually give people up to 2 weeks before they decide that they're not going to sign it anymore.
How generous.
You're going to have older device. Yeah, I don't know the exact time frame, but I've seen it. I mean, when they do the dot backups, when they do the dot updates, they generally pull the previous version pretty quickly. But when it's a full out, going from 16 to 17, I've seen that this is the first week. I would probably see within the next week, you're probably going to see it's no longer signed for specific devices that already have 17 installed.
Okay.
I should try
Yeah.
that, because I got my dummy phone here. I can always downgrade to see how it does it. I'm
Honestly, in this case, I think for most folks, they're not going to notice any major differences. There's certainly some really nice features, which you gave an excellent rundown of, and I would encourage everyone to give them a try. But even if you don't avail yourself of any of those new features, it's not going to feel that different.
right.
It's not like when they moved, created the what's the page on the home screens with all your apps on it? What do they call that?
In the home screen.
The app page. When you say, I don't, the app screen, they call it the app screen? Is that what they call it? I don't know what they call it.
Yeah, the page. Yeah, and they're pages, because you can tap the search bar and then tap it. Then you get each. Here's I have on screen
App
here. You get
library.
those
That's what.
the app
that's
library
the term.
itself. Okay.
Yeah, app
Because
library.
you have
When they added
the
that,
pages,
that was a big
that's the
operational
home pages.
change. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big operational
app-
change, and some folks didn't like it, and whatnot. But if there's something that's really rubbing you the wrong way about iOS 17, you better decide pretty quickly you want to go back. But other than that
shouldn't affect it.
I think it's been a pretty smooth,
Yep.
uneventful,
It's a very smooth process for me.
yeah, uneventful upgrade. So
As I mentioned, eSIM made my life easy. The phone number transferred right over within a minute. It was super
And-
easy. No more SIM cards to deal with.
we have a question about that, and I want to get to that. One last thing about the iPhone, Dave, if you'll
Sure.
if you bear with us. Hardware requirements. Who can get iOS 17?
It's really easy to say. Really, I'm not going to read off every iPhone. If you have anything below an iPhone 10R, you're out of luck. So that means going to the 8 and lower is not compatible with iOS 17. So
It's
I
pretty
really
similar
think
to
Apple's
16, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 16 runs on the 8. So,
Oh, it does?
but
I found some web results.
oops,
I can show them if you ask again for
and
your
there's my Siri going when I didn't even say ask her. Yeah, so I think I think Apple's very generous when it comes to supporting older devices. Honestly, I mean, the iPhone 8 was what 7 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago when that phone was out. So, but yeah. Also, if anybody has the SE, it goes the second gen and higher. So the first gen SE is end of the line too.
Wow. Okay.
So that was that very first iPhone SE. And of
And
course, we
that,
know that. And then
that phone's been out for a while.
yeah, it was. It was. So they got this third gen SE now. That's the second gen. It was discontinued, but there's still people out there that still have it. And we know yes, and then I won't so that's where the requirements. But you know that a lot of the features aren't going to work in some of the older models. You know, with the 10R, the 10S, and the 10. Some features may not work that we have them on the newer ones like the 11, the 12, the 13.
A lot of the marquee features that you mentioned as some of your favorites will work on the older phones. You know, the rearranging of the phone screen and setting up your profile poster and things like that should all work. But yeah, some of the more hardware specific features,
like camera and that stuff.
Yeah, you may not be able to take advantage of those.
Yep.
One more tip: your S lady went off in the background there, and even before the new feature where you could just say S lady's name, I'm scared to say it now, where you could say S lady's name, and so that's the new feature. You can by default you just say the name alone. You don't have to add hey in front of it.
Right.
Even before that, though, mine was going off all the time. Whether I said hey or not, it was going off all the time. So I was a little concerned about having it switch to just the name. And you can actually change it back to the old way.
You can.
So,
yes.
yeah, it's under settings, and then I can't get around it. I got to say it. It's under Siri and search. And then the very first option is listen for. And you can change it back to hey if you want to. Or you can just turn it off entirely. But if you leave it to the default, it will work with either Siri or hey.
Yeah.
See, I can't say the second word now because
this
mine
was
will
the
go off.
HomePod that went off on me. So.
And that probably hasn't been updated yet, right?
Oh yeah, it's updated.
Okay, so thank you, Dave. That was awesome. A great,
Thank you.
great rundown of some fantastic new features coming to your phone in iOS 17. If you've not upgraded yet, they've already released the first patch for it. Small patch, but an important patch. It's a security update. So whether you are still on 16 or still on 17, look for that security patch in your upgrades under General Software Update. You're going to see an update in there. And how far back does that security patch go? Does it go to 15 as well? Or are we just on 16 and 17? Do we know?
As far, the security patch like 17.0.1?
Yeah, like I know they released a 16 security patch simultaneously with the 17.
I think it was 16.7.
Did they also release an iOS 15 security patch?
They did, yeah.
They did. Okay, so
6.7 or something like that.
Yeah, even if your phone can't run 16 or 17, or if you just have decided to stay on 15 or older, just go into
Update them.
settings, go into general, go into software update, and see what's waiting for you, because there's a good chance that this patch will apply to your phone as well.
Yeah, it affected all the older phones too. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a 0-day exploit, so it's definitely all across all the versions of iOS.
Fun times.
Yep.
I have a couple listener questions. You want to go through this with me?
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. So this first one is kind of a Mac question. This comes from Bill B. And Dave, I believe you met Bill at MacStock.
Okay.
He wrote, "Hope the summer was great for you. I know one of my highlights," he says, "is MacStock. He had a great time. It was his very first MacStock, and he had a fantastic time. Unfortunately, he was only able to be there for Saturday, but he's since watched the Sunday talks on the Digital Pass and has just
Nice.
learned so much from it. We had an amazing lineup of speakers, and I'm always so
Yes.
gratified to hear when someone like Bill, who's a first time attendee, learned a ton, because that's the point. And he just absolutely had a great time at MacStock this year. So
Great.
we'll be looking to get him back for 2 days next time.
Yes.
But he writes, I'm writing to see if you know if there is an app that can help me lay out furniture in a room. I just want to move furniture around without the heavy lifting. And he says, in other words, if the room is 15 by 20, where can I place a desk that is 2 by 6, etc.? As always, thanks for your knowledge and helpful attitude. Well, I tried. Thanks, Bill. Bill's awesome, and it's good to hear from him again. Now, I'll admit, I'm not an expert in floor layout apps. It's not something I use on a regular basis, but I did find a couple solutions that I thought might be worth looking into for him. And the first is actually, this will work on anybody's computer. It's a web-based app called SmartDraw. And you know this one?
No, I saw that on the
Yeah.
list here. Yep.
It's a floor plan creator. Or one of the features of SmartDraw. Let me put it that way. One of the features is a floor plan creator, and it looks to be really full featured. In playing with it, you can pick some predefined room shapes and then adjust the sizes of them. They have an entire library of furniture and other things that you can drop into that room. So it looks very easy to use. And like I said, it's all web based. So that was quite cool. The thing that wasn't quite as cool about it, though, is it appears as if when you want to do things like save your plan or print your plan, you need to pay for it. So it's
Right.
free to use as much as you want. But once you put that effort into designing your room layout and deciding that you want to keep it and save it, you have to be ready to pay for it, which I get.
Yeah.
You know, it's a freemium type product, but it does look like a great product and might be worth looking into. And so I'll put a link to that in the show notes, Bill, but it's actually at smartdraw.com. And specifically, the floor plan designer is smartdraw.com/floor-plan/floor-plan-designer.html. HTM. I'm going to just put that link in the show notes. Now, the second option I came across, and Dave won't be surprised that I looked for this next. I love open source solutions. I'm a big fan of open source software, and I found what looks to be a fantastic app called Sweet Home 3D. And the
Nice.
neat thing about this is that it comes in two versions. There's the free open source version, and you can download that directly from their website. And then there's an App Store version. So you can go into the Mac App Store and purchase it through there, and it's $14.99 through the Mac App Store. And the only difference between them, other than the automatic updates that you get with the Mac App Store and things like that, and the ease of installation, let's not forget about that. When you get through the Mac App Store, super easy to install. You never have to worry about updates. You know, that's cool. But the biggest difference and why you might want to spend that $15 is the number of symbols and textures that come with it. There's just a base number of room furniture and other symbols that come with the free version, as well as textures, wall textures, and things like that. And then if you buy the Mac App Store version, that $15 gets you, I think it's well over 1,000 different symbols versus the 100 that come with the free one. So if you're looking for a lot of content that you can use in your room layout, you almost definitely want to get that one. But first, try out the free one. And you're going to find that at sweethome3d.com. And I'll put a link to that and the Mac App Store version of it. But give that free one a try. And it's a download. You open up the DMG file, drop it into your applications folder, and you're on your way. In fact, I didn't get any warnings I didn't get any developer warnings or, security warnings or anything like that. It just said, hey, you downloaded this from the internet. Are you sure you want to open it? I said, yes. And I was on my way. And it's interesting to use because first you create a room layout, a top-down view of the room. This one I played with a little bit more. You create a top-down view of the room, and then you draw your walls. So you pull your walls up from the floor. So you create your floor, then you create your walls. And once you create those walls, you can throw windows in, you can throw doors in, you can drop furniture in it. They had a fish tank you can put on a table. It was neat software, and the thing that kind of impressed me with it was that as you're playing with that top-down 2D view, there's a 3D view below it, and that 3D view updates instantly as you're adding things to the 2D top-down view. And then you can just use your mouse to drag and drop and rotate the room and all that kind of stuff. So it was pretty cool. And that's completely free or $15 in the Mac App Store. And then, did you have any options that you used? Do you use any home layout software?
I don't use it, but I did find something. I put it in our private chat here. It's on MacHow2.com. It got the top 12 best floor plan software, and that Sweet Home 3D was in there as one of them. So,
okay, cool. So we can put a link to that in the show notes as well. And they list, you said 12 different apps.
There's 12 different ones here. Smart Draw all the way down to Sweet Home at 3D, and
there you
there's
go.
quite a few here.
And that's actually very similar to my last suggestion. And that's why I asked if you had any options first, Dave, because my last suggestion is kind of a generic one. And that's to simply open the Mac App Store and search for floor plan software.
Exactly.
The good thing about getting it through the Mac App Store is that there's that vetting process that takes place. So you're not just kind of randomly downloading from some developer you've never heard of before. There's that little bit of vetting. Now, I have a little trouble recommending just doing a blanket search in the Mac App Store because there's so much that comes up that it's overwhelming. And when I did the search myself, a bunch came up. Just a ton of floor plan design software came up. And the thing to watch out for is that not all of them are free. Not all of them offer a trial. So you can't really know if it's going to do what you need it to do before you pay for it. And I'm not a big fan of that. But there are plenty that are free to download. There are plenty that you can download, and then there are in-app purchases to unlock the more advanced features. So I consider that a trial. If you can download it and then you have to unlock it with a Mac App Store or an in-app purchase, I consider that a trial version of it. You might not get all the features, but at least you can give it a quick run through. And so some will offer that, some will not. Some might direct you to their website to download a trial. Some will just say, hey, you got to buy it from us, that kind of thing. But check out the screenshots, check out the reviews, see if something stands out at you, and if something might work better than the other solutions that we mentioned, which are Smart Draw and Sweet Home 3D. So those are my suggestions, Bill. Give them a try and let me know what happens. Now, this is where Dave comes in. Our friend Lisa in Florida wrote, I have an iPhone 14 Pro. She enjoyed the reaction time episode, by the way. Awesome. So that's what she's referencing here. She says, I have an iPhone 14 Pro, and after listening to the episode, I know I will at least upgrade to an iPhone 15 Pro with that super trade-in offer that Apple has. But first, she has some questions. And here's the first one for you, Dave, because she mentions you. She says, I see Dave wanted the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Guess what he's got? The only difference. There you go. Yeah, if you're watching the video, there you go. She says, is the only difference from the Pro the 5x telephoto on the Pro Max? And she says, is the size any bigger? She says, I'm sort of a small person, so I may not want the bigger phone. So what do you think? What are the differences between the Pro and the Pro Max that might, put her looking one way or the other? And then how do the sizes compare?
Yeah, it's a big phone, and a lot of people don't like it because of that reason. So you have to take into account that if it if you've been using the Pro, the size of what the Pro is now, I think it's probably going to be a good idea to stick with that size. Is the lens nice? Yeah. I mean, I haven't gone out on the wild yet as far as trying it just yet, since I just got it on Friday. So it's definitely going to be definitely interesting. Yeah. So it does have the 5x telephoto. So you're going to have a little bit of improvement there. But beyond that, there really isn't much difference otherwise. As this, but I think, in my opinion, I think you probably should stick with the Pro, and not go with the Pro Max.
So Pro Max means it's the larger screen. Is that really what it comes down to?
6.7-inch screen.
Holy cow!
Instead of 6.1, right?
So yeah, I think the base 13 and the base 14 and the base 15, that's the 6.1-inch screen, right?
Right.
So what is it then? You have the 15 plus.
I'm bringing up the comparisons here so I can give you.
And then
I have the. If she's going to go with the 15, she's going with the 15 Pro.
15 Pro, right? Yeah.
She wants to stay with the Pro. All the other features are exactly the same. I'm just going to check the zoom. Yes. Yeah, so the only real difference is the optical zoom. You go 0.5x all the way up to 3x, whereas the Pro Max has the 5x. Other than that, they're exactly the same phone.
Wow.
There's no other
and
difference.
The screen.
Yep. Yeah.
So
the screen, the size, the larger size screen. So
okay.
The one things with the Pro, you do have an option if you don't want to spend the money, because the Pro Max technically didn't go up in price, but technically it did, because you have the base size capacity now is at 256 gigabytes as opposed to 128 gigabytes, whereas the Pro starts at 128. So there's the other caveat of the difference in price. So yeah, that's why you say it starts at $11.99 on the Pro Max versus $9.99 on the Pro.
Okay. And what was the Pro Max in the past? Was it like $10.99 or something?
Yeah, because it's accounting for the jump in the base size capacity. It was 128 was offered, but on a Pro Max, it doesn't make sense to have 128 these days, because the RAW that it shoots. I mean, I had a 256 on the 14 Pro Max, and I decided to bump up to 512. But you also you have to be pretty serious with photography if you want to, and you're taking a lot of photos, because it will take up a lot of space. But I didn't find a huge difference in price between the two, that I just opted to the 512 this year.
So that's a really good thing that you just did there, and it's something that Lisa should almost certainly do herself, just to kind of make sure, is to go to apple.com, go to Apple's website, go to the iPhone page, and you'll see in their drop-down menu, you'll see compare phones.
Yeah,
and when
it's
you click
apple.com/iPhone/compare.
Even easier, /iPhone/compare, and then you can, from the drop downs, you can choose the different models. So you can choose the Pro, you can choose the Pro Max, and you can just kind of run down, and they'll tell you exactly what's different between the different models, and down to the storage too. So we have, what is it, 128, 256, 512, and then 256, 512, and a terabyte? Does it go to a terabyte on the Pro Max now?
Yes.
Wow.
Excuse me.
That's crazy. But if
too,
you're shooting RAW.
But she says she has the iPhone 14 Pro now?
She has the 14 Pro, yeah.
I mean, they're really basically the same phone. There really isn't a drastic, I'll be honest. You go from an A16 Bionic chip to the A17 Pro chip, and there's not a huge drastic difference. You got one more core in the GPU than you do with the 17 Pro chip. It's a 3 nanometer technology, so it's the thinnest chip they've ever made. But you look at and do a comparison. Go to that chart that we just said, and put the 14 Pro Max up against the 15 Pro, and you look at it. Other than that, they have a next generation portraits and focus and depth control that they've added. So they just made some enhancements. Is basically what they did.
Yeah.
That's it. But it has the exact same optical zoom options between the 14 Pro and the 15 Pro.
You know, I think I mentioned that during the reaction time, or at least we talked about it before recording today, Dave, that the biggest difference I saw when I lined up all the different new iPhones this year, the biggest, and compared them to last year, the biggest differences I saw were between the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 15. But when you looked at the 14 Pro and the 15 Pro, or the 14 Pro Max and the 15 Pro Max, I didn't see that many differences at all.
Really
So,
isn't much.
you know, the trade-in's great, but not to dissuade you or tamper your excitement for getting the iPhone 15, but maybe wait for the 16.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm assuming she's in the Apple trade-in program, and you know they're more than happy to have you continue on and continue payments. She's probably about halfway there now on the 14. Because that's where I was as far as cost. So, just you can wait till the next year, and then you can still trade it in and still get the next model.
Okay, that's a good point. She mentions the super trade-in, but not specifically the trade-in program. So, but I'm assuming it's the trade-in program now that you say that.
If it's either that or she's working with her carrier, because I know a lot of these carriers are really giving some major incentives to trade in. So
yeah. So if it is the trade-in program, might as well take advantage of it then.
And like you said, we talked about this on the Reaction Time episode. I've talked about this on my show all the time. I mean, I really think you can go all the way down to probably, I would say if you have the 11 or older, I think you're due for an upgrade. But the 12 and the 13 are still perfectly good iPhones. I mean, unless you're really wanting to get, you're ready to jump in and get the newer technology with the camera. I think the camera is really the biggest thing that stands out on the 15. Is this just insane enhancements with the camera. iOS 17 really makes the 12 and the 13 very valuable. I mean, Ben Rathik's on my show. He has the 12, so 12 Pro Max, and he's debating on it. But it's enticing to do when you see some of the features that are added with the new models every year. Yeah, if I wasn't a crazy person and like to trade in and stay on top of things, I probably would have stuck with the 14. I mean, the 14 Pro Max is a perfectly good iPhone. It honestly is. I mean, I have a family member that tends to buy I give her the option every time. You ready to upgrade? Because I think she has my 12 Pro Max that she bought from me. I didn't trade it in that year, and then the next year I went, to the 13. So, and then the 14 from there. So it's not for everybody. I mean, if you don't, I'm basically renting the phone. Honestly, I mean that's what it is. I mean,
that is really what it is. Yeah, it's like leasing a car and then trading in for another car, and you just continue the lease or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but the good thing is I don't have to come up that other half of the very large chunk of what the 14 and the 15 Pro Max costs. So.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. She has a second question, and it's broken down into multiple parts, and I think we can get through these pretty quickly. The general question is, could you go over, and I know you can do this because you literally just did this, Dave. She says, could you go over what in the heck are the steps to do when I trade in my phone at the Apple Store? And she points out that it's very easy to get to because it's literally next door to her building.
Nice.
So she has a number of questions here. Let's start with the first one. She has she has an eSIM in her current iPhone 14 Pro. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just part of signing in and transferring data to the new phone, right?
Yep. As soon as you fire up the new phone, it's automatically we see you have an eSIM. Do you want to transfer this line? And it interacts between the old iPhone and the new iPhone. And then, I just did it. Just literally, I think it was Friday night, Saturday as we record here. And it just comes up, says, "You want to transfer this?" You tap it, yes, and then goes out to the network and out to your carrier right away, and then within a minute it was transferred.
It's transferred
And
over.
then-
And you don't
then-
need to
then you
call
get
the
texts.
carrier. You don't need to do anything.
Nope.
You just need to transfer
I
the
got
eSIM.
texts from them and emails just to confirm it.
Okay. There
that it
you
was
go.
done. So that part is super easy. The other part is after the fact, and if she's bringing it to the Apple Store, they'll do it for you. But I can tell her how to do it. When you go into settings under General, there is a choice way at the bottom there where it says they make it easy. It says transfer or reset iPhone. When you tap that, it gives you all the steps to get ready and to be started on the iPhone. If you're going to do it at the Apple Store, I would just let them help you do it, because the good thing is if they're doing the trade in there, they'll check it over for you and make sure there's no problems. Because that's what's going to happen is, I know my iPhone 14 Pro Max, when it goes into the box, I'm shipping it back to Apple. They're gonna take a look at it, and then if everything's okay, I won't get charged and be over.
Yeah.
Not any concern. I mean, just obviously, I'm sure your screen isn't cracked or any other flaws, but it's super easy to do just by going into those steps. And I'll repeat that again. So it's for the listeners here. Just going under General, and the big long list. You scroll all the way down to the bottom. It's transfer or reset the iPhone, and then you just tap. You can do getting started, where it says preparing for a new iPhone, or at the very bottom, this is the place where you go if you want to erase all content and settings and just reset the phone back up again. So that's what they've done. They've made it easier to that's why it says transfer or reset.
So in the transfer, so this is going to, all right, so here's two more of her points that she lists. I'm going to just read these off, and then I'm going to ask my question of you, Dave. The other one is iCloud sign out. When does she do that during the switch?
Yep.
And then the other question is, how do I make sure Apple erased the phone that she trades in? And so my question to you is, when you tap transfer, I believe it steps you through all of that, right? It takes
All
you
that.
through transferring your data. It tells you what you need to sign out of, because there's different
does a
things you have
final
to sign
backup.
out of.
Two things. You have to sign out of Find My. That's the 1st thing you have to do. You have to do that first. You can't do it. It won't go any further unless you have
Okay.
to make sure that you've signed out of Find My, because the phone is basically a brick if you leave it on Find My.
It is. Yeah,
So you have to-
that's
you have to
it's awful, but
have
it's
to
good, and yeah.
Yeah, so that's the first thing you do, and then once it'll prompt you, so you don't have to worry about it. But you're right. The second thing is sign out of your iCloud account, and it'll sign you out from the phone completely. Generally, what I do is right now my 14 Pro Max, I signed out. I did both already, but I didn't erase it yet. So the iPhone 14 Pro Max is not connected to iCloud or Find My anymore. Just let it sit for another day. I mean, I've got some time. I can do some stuff like I do, comparisons and demos, that kind of stuff. But then when they send me the box, I have 14 days to ship it back. So then it's time.
And she's going to be handing it in right there and then, right? I mean, they don't.
Yeah. So then she'll have to do it right away. So
She'll have to do it right away. But when you tap transfer, the first thing it does then is it says, "All right, you gotta sign out of Find My,"
right.
and you do that. Does it sign? It doesn't sign you out of iCloud until the transfer is done, though, right?
You probably want to. Yeah, you can go through the transfer process. It should prompt to ask, "Do you want to do another backup before you
Which you should.
complete this?" And that, which you definitely should. The other thing you got to be, there's a couple caveats too, is if you have an Apple Watch, you have to make sure you unpair the watch from your iPhone too.
And I think it'll prompt you that too.
It should prompt you as well for that. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's the nice thing about transfer, is it steps you through all those
It does.
things
Very
that you
simple.
need to make sure you
Apple's
do.
made it really simple.
In the past, if you forgot any one of those things, it was on your shoulders to remember to do it. But now transfer just takes you through the whole thing.
They made it super easy.
But there is a little bit of a timing question here, and I know what my answer is, and I'll share my answer, and then I'll get your answer. How about that?
Okay. Sure.
One of her points is, I have all kinds of apps on the phone, including Dropbox, that are not iCloud per se, but they're on the phone. Do I delete them before heading into the store? Or, she says, question mark, question mark, question mark. Now, my answer to that is that no, she should not delete those apps. That if she does erase those apps, then that's going to end up with an iCloud backup that doesn't include all of your apps. If you delete it first and then you back up, those apps ain't going to be there. So my suggestion was to keep everything on the phone, as you want it to be on the new phone. Make sure your phone is backed up, and make sure you do all that before you head to the Apple Store. Even if you do a new backup while at the store, just make sure you do that backup first, but keep all the apps on as you want them to be. Do you agree with that, or do you have a different
100%.
suggestion?
Nope, 100%. I agree with that. I did it firsthand here. I turned on the new iPhone for the first time, and it starts copying everything back. I mean, even once it finishes, it completes. And again, I highly recommend doing the restore from iCloud. Don't do a direct device to device. I don't think it's worth it. It takes too much time.
I think restore from iCloud works better too. Yeah.
Restore works much better. Because what happens is once it's done, it says, "Oh yeah, we're done." But then you can go into the iCloud settings and you'll see there's still restore going on right now. And so I had like 23 gigabytes of stuff that was still transferring after the fact. That's all the apps, all the settings. Most of the apps will come back over. I mean, Dropbox or OneDrive or any of those file sharing programs that you're using should just sign in. I haven't checked my OneDrive yet, but I use it for work too. I haven't done my work part yet, so I have to.
That'll sync once you sign into it.
Yeah, I got to get the authenticator app, and that's a whole other thing I can talk about. But we're getting out of short on time here, but that's that's definitely the thing we need to do. Do not sign out of that. Just let it do its thing, and it'll restore it all back. And you might have some weird buggy things. You got to put your password back into your email and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's to be expected.
Yeah, all these services kind of fingerprint your current device. So, Dropbox, and I think Zoom does this too. Yeah, and your email services, they kind of fingerprint the device that you've signed into. And that doesn't mean they're storing personal information or anything. They just kind of take note of the device that you're signed in. And so now you're signing in on a new device. They're like, whoa, 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 whoa. We need to make sure you really are who you are. So you have to sign in again, re-authenticate against it. But that's not a big deal. The app will be there. You just have to sign back into it again. That's all.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
That's all I got to do.
All right. So, I think we answered Lisa's question, but I think we might have also created a question for her. And that is,
just go to the Apple Store. I'm going to say, short answer, go to the Apple Store. They'll take care of you.
Well, but the new question is, does she even need the 15 Pro if she has the 14 Pro? So that's the question.
My opinion, I don't think so. That's my opinion.
But with the trade-in program, why not?
Right? You want to keep going, and you love technology. So I know Lisa does
Lisa loves technology.
She enjoys technology. Why not stick with it? And that's like me. I do it every year.
Exactly. Well, awesome. Hope that helped, Lisa. Oh, she had one more thing, one more comment, and I'm going to mention this right now. At the very end of her email, she said, "Thanks, and thanks to all the curmudgeons who are on the show." She's talking about me, of course. She says, "I agree with Dave. Get a cool case and ignore the bland colors." And my answer to that is boo. That's my answer to that.
I got a couple cases here, so I could change colors too. So.
Well, I'll be interested to know what happens, Lisa. Let us know. Let us know what you go with. And more importantly, let us know how easy the transfer process was. I don't think Apple's going to let you leave that store until you're happy. Absolutely. So, yep, there you go. All right. Thanks, Dave. I think that's going to do it for this episode of For Mac Guys Only. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Remember, I do love to get your letters. If like Lisa or Bill, you have a comment about the show, a tip to share, a software or hardware problem with your Mac or your iPhone, we'll get Dave back on to answer your questions about your iPhone. Be sure to leave your favorites in the comments of this week's show notes found at formaccguysonly.com, or better yet, drop me a line, Mike at formaccguysonly.com. Let me try that again. Or drop me a line at Mike. Oh gosh, dang it. Or drop me a line, Mike at formaccguysonly.com. That all gets edited out. And be sure to subscribe to the show's YouTube channel at youtube.com/FA. All right. I think we're done, Dave. All right. Let me do this again. One more time, and then we're out of here. And be sure to subscribe to the show's YouTube channel at youtube.com/FMEOTV and click that little notification bell so you can find out when we're going live, you can join the chat room, and you can catch all the behind the scenes stuff that doesn't make the final cut of the show. Good examples of which we just had. Dave, what are the best ways for folks to get a hold of you?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. This was just absolutely awesome. I had an actual blast. Thanks for having me on the show. You can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. I'm on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios. You also can find me on the social media, which is at Mastodon, which is at mastodon.cloud at DaveG65. I'm on Mac Voices Live every Tuesday night with Chuck Joyner and our cast of characters. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesdays. And then I'm also on the Mac Show. I'm on the British Tech Network, also with Chuck and Jeff Gamet on Friday mornings, talking about the stuff with the Mac and all kinds of Apple stuff at the Mac Show. That's a British Tech Network.
Awesome.
And thank you. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Thanks to Dave for joining me this episode. Stay subscribed, and we'll talk to you next time.